Friday, November 29th, 1974. Now Lowell Thomas.
From UN, from Peking, from Dallas, Texas, comes today's news. Good evening, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas for CBS News. President Ford will hold a news conference Monday night, 7:30 Eastern Time, presumably to discuss the new tentative agreement with Russia to limit nuclear weapons. Reports from Moscow say the proposed pact has already won the approval of the Politburo, the Soviet ruling body. From Peking and the White House, we hear President Ford will visit China late next year. The Chinese expressed hope for such a visit to Secretary Kissinger when he arrived in Peking the other day. Today, Dr. Kissinger flew to Tokyo for a brief visit. Now he returns to Washington tomorrow. The UN Security Council has voted approval for a 6-month extension of the UN peacekeeping force now in the Golan Heights, the buffer zone between the Syrian and Israeli armies. Israelis patrolling inside Lebanon are said to have intercepted and killed 5 Palestinian guerrillas who are about to cross over and launch new attacks against Israeli settlements. Judge Sirica's 3-man medical team delivered its opinion today that former President Richard Nixon is too ill to testify in the current Watergate trial and is likely to remain so till early next year. This makes it doubtful that his testimony will figure in the trial, which is now expected to end by Christmas. And now this message. President Ford rebukes Agricultural Secretary Butz for repeating that old birth control sort of joke in a mock Italian accent, an incident that brought protests from Cardinal Cook of New York and some Italian-American groups. The Secretary has apologized for the dialect quote, which I remember hearing long years ago. Oil tycoon H.L. Hunt, former mule skinner who became one of the world's wealthiest men, died today in Dallas, Texas at age 85. His fortune estimated at way over $1 billion, maybe 2 or 3 times that. During World War II, he said he owned more petroleum reserves than Germany, Italy, and Japan combined. And he also once said, money is nothing. He said it's just something to keep bookkeepers busy. Would you like to be kept busy that way? Now this message. Some millions in counterfeit bills confiscated and 5 men arrested this week in the Redlands, Riverside areas in California, while police at Rogersville, Alabama were dealing with counterfeit of another kind, phony antifreeze, seizing 1,700 gallons destined for service stations facing a shortage of the real thing. The ersatz antifreeze found out to be nothing but salt water plus cake coloring. And now for CBS News, this is Lowell Thomas saying, so long until Monday.
Tuesday, December 3rd, 1974. Now Lowell Thomas.
From the White House, from San Juan, Puerto Rico, from Moscow comes today's news. Good evening, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas for CBS News. After taking it for quite some time, the White House today was dishing it out. Spokesman Ron Nessen taking exception to what he called unfair criticism of President Ford, especially that of Senator Goldwater, urging the president to quit traveling in order to provide more leadership here at home. Ron Nessen going on to say the president's recent Far Eastern trip was important, resulted in accomplishments. This, said he, at a time when Congress was getting ready to take its second vacation in less than a month. Then Nessen added, obviously the economic situation is serious, and said he, there is a growing sense of frustration in the White House, but only because Congress has failed to act. The press secretary going on to suggest that maybe members of Congress should put their air travel cards in mothballs. Do so at least till they pass the president's new economic program. Now this message. The House and Senate today overrode the president's veto of that big increase in veterans' educational benefits. The added cost on this in the current budget is expected to come to more than $800 million. The net worth of Nelson Rockefeller and all members of his family was disclosed today to be well over $1 billion. This according to family financial advisor J. Richardson Dilworth testimony before the House Judiciary Committee. He insisted, however, there could be no conflict of interest in Rockefeller's performance as vice president if confirmed. House Democrats today took another step towards stripping Wilbur Mills of his Ways and Means Committee authority. The Democrats voting to expand the Ways and Means Committee from 25 to 37 members, doing it by unanimous voice vote. The new seats to be filled mainly by liberal Democrats opposed to the Mills conservatism. We are also told a move is now afoot to remove Wilbur Mills as committee chairman. All as a result of his recent carryings-on with stripper Fanny Fox, the Rock Creek bombshell. Late today, Wilbur Mills was admitted to Bethesda Naval Hospital, saying, terribly tired. For Senator Humphrey of Minnesota, a trip to Puerto Rico where he offered the slumping automotive industry a three-word solution on how to sell more cars, said Hubert Humphrey, cut the prices. It's snowing where I am, so here's one for skiers. Those famous jumpers, Alf Engen and Art Devlin, tell me this may be the winter for the first 600-foot leap on skis, twice the length of a football field. Is ski jumping dangerous? As stylish ski jumper Erling Strom used to say, the safest place of all in skiing is in midair when you go off one of those lofty jumping hills. Now for CBS News, this is Lowell Thomas saying so long until tomorrow.
Monday, December 9th, 1974. Now Lowell Thomas.
Now you're listening to WJR AM, Radio 76, WJR Detroit. This is America's great radio station, a service of Capital Cities Communications.
Washington, from Rangoon, Burma, and from Jerusalem comes today's news. Good evening, everybody. This is Lowell Thomas for CBS News. Henry Ford today issued his annual year-end statement discussing mainly the present economic recession, saying consumers have stopped buying because they are afraid things will go from bad to worse. So he is urging an immediate 10% reduction in federal withholding taxes. Another drop in the wholesale price of sugar today from 69.5 cents a pound to 65 9/10, a total decline of nearly a dime a pound in less than a week. Israeli Foreign Minister Yigal Allon was a visitor today in Washington in a day-long session with Secretary of State Kissinger. The two also meeting with President Ford for more than an hour and a half. Results, if any, as yet undisclosed, but observers say a break in the current Mideast impasse may be in the offing. The Greek Catholic Archbishop of Jerusalem, Hilarion Capucci, today was sentenced by an Israeli court, sentenced to 12 years for smuggling arms and explosives for use by Arab guerrillas. The U.S. Senate today began its final debate on the nomination of Nelson Rockefeller with the vote set for tomorrow afternoon. Democratic Whip Robert Byrd predicts that he will be confirmed overwhelmingly. So said the man who served as chief interrogator during the Senate hearings. In the Watergate, Ehrlichman today took the stand in his own behalf, the former White House aide telling how he called Ron Ziegler at Key Biscayne to break the news about the break-in. He said that President Nixon was thoroughly convinced that the CIA was involved, but that he had no alternative but to tell the FBI to go full steam ahead. Mayor Daley of Chicago, age 72, and the victim of a recent stroke, now announces that he will be a candidate for an unprecedented sixth term. A warning today from a Ralph Nader group about the potential health hazard from candles with lead wicks. The Nader Raiders noting they first called attention to such candles a year ago, and that government failure to take any action on this constitutes a serious dereliction of responsibility. Virginia Nauer, the President's Consumer Affairs Advisor, warns all of us who plan to buy some gold. Were you planning it? She says that Sharpies all over the world are just waiting to take advantage of you. Plans for a daring cross-country skiing adventure at the bottom of the world reported from Moscow. A group of Russian women planning to ski across the Antarctic next year, all the way from the Soviet station, Vostok, to the American South Pole, Amundsen Scott Station. The distance, some 800 miles, and they hope to do it in 50 days. Well, I wonder why they're going to do it. And now, for CBS News, this is Lowell Thomas saying, so long until tomorrow.